everyone. Welcome to VnExpress e-conference on the topic of the future of work. As you might be aware of, the pandemic COVID-19 is taking its toll on almost every aspect of the economy and society, and we are facing what we call an unprecedented time. So it changes the way that we work, it changes the way that we connect with the other people, and it changes the way that we live. So basically, what we want to bring you today are different perspectives of different experts in different countries and industries to share with you a thing or two about how the future work might evolve from here and whether it will change our future workplace, maybe for good. Joining me today are three experts in different industries and areas. Okay, starting with Amarit, the Chief International Officer and co-founder of Techsauce.
Hi, everybody. My name is Aim, co-founder of Techsauce. We're one of Southeast Asia's leading technology, media, and conference company. So we host a annual Techsauce Global Summit for 20,000 attendees every mid-year, and that's obviously postponed to October, as well as have about 3 million readers monthly, both about Thailand and the Southeast Asia tech ecosystem.
Hey, so my name is Dat Tran, or in Vietnamese, Dat Chen. I don't really use that. I, as you said, work for Axel Springer, which is Europe's largest digital publisher. It's similar in the business like VnExpress, right? So we own the largest newspapers in Germany as well, like Bild and Welt. We're not really well known in Asia, but for example, a company ever knows is Business Insider. So it belongs to Axel Springer, which is more like a holding over across like a lot of different brands. And my role there is basically to drive everything around AI. And my goal is to turn the company into an AI first company.
Hi, everyone. I'm Catalina. And since 4 months, I came to Vietnam and I joined Think Zone Accelerator as head of program, where I hope to really apply all my knowledge and experience that I've accumulated so far in helping entrepreneurs here in the region to really use design thinking principles, lean startup processes to really become smarter and better at running their businesses.
So thank you. And my name is Nicole, and I'll be your host today. So I'm the CEO of ABSC Social Enterprise, and we are a pioneer innovation consulting firm backed by one of the largest Vietnamese professional diaspora network. So such a delight to have you with us today. So, just to step back a bit to, set the stage. So basically, when people talk about the future of work, actually there are two folds of the topic. So one is what we call the left-hand side of the work, meaning the processes, the platforms, the hardwares, and everything that deals with the work itself, how you can deliver the work more efficiently. But on the other hand, there's a largely neglected part, meaning the part that deals with humans, with the individuals. So how to motivate the people, how to keep them, on track, how to measure their performance. So basically today, what we want to discuss is to cover how you would be able to cover both sides, of the coin, both sides of the topic today, how we can both, improve the efficiency of work and at the same time keep your team members motivated. So maybe starting with a very first question that everyone has in mind when they talk about the future of work. So we have heard about singularity, how robots might take over the world. That might be the extreme version of how, technologies have evolved and how they might impact, the way that people would be working in the future. So the top of mind technology, of course, is AI. So I would like to have the first question to you, Dat Tran, because since you have been, involved in this space for so long. So what would you see might be the emerging applications of AI in the future, especially during this time? And do you see if there's any other technologies that might, that might emerge soon, aside to AI in the future, especially in the startup ecosystem?
AI itself as a technology, has been now around for quite a while now, right? I don't think it's quite a new topic. If you just think about your smartphone or at home, if you have a Google Home or anything else, everything is powered by I wouldn't call it AI, I would call it machine learning, right? So every technology, for example, if you use your smartphone, if you type in something, if you send a message, if you use Instagram, if you use Facebook, even video platforms like Zoom, right? So there is some part of it that is powered by machine learning or AI technology already. The question is, where do we stand at the moment right now, right? So in terms of we've seen a quite big wave of computer vision applications. So over the last 2 years, there's a new trend coming up. This is more like kind of technology that you, for example, use to do translation, right? So, giving suggestion, for example, when you write an email, right? For example, Google Mail, for example, if you write something, you get a suggestion. Even during the Corona case right now, people are creating kind of Q&A systems where they collect a lot of data, right? Because the thing is, at the moment, for example, some ask questions around Corona, right? Everyone kind of says a different thing, and there are expert systems building on top of that, basically, that gives you an answer to that, right? I think the next wave of technology where AI will have a bigger impact and how it will be used would probably be in voice. So I believe that this is kind of technology that hasn't been kind of monetized so much so far. I mean, of course, you have things like smart speakers at home, right? Smart homes. But this is, in the future, I think the interaction will not be, just typing a keyboard on your smartphone, but more interacting with voice.
I think in most countries, it really feels like we just kind of clicked pause and we're waiting for things to happen. But I think it's an interesting time to really explore opportunities, especially in the digital world, and to really see what can we do digitally. How can we respond to this, either by not even necessarily transferring your business online, but how can we explore new directions? Because as time also shows many businesses that going digital is very important, and the companies who kind of postponed this felt the trouble the most. So I think it's really an interesting time to explore this new digital environment from a new perspective.
A lot of the AI tools that I used to interact with in the past, for an example, I used to have a virtual assistant, and now I realize that stuff like Calendly or X.AI were able to do a lot of the work that was reserved for humans in the past, and that we've come so far that now, so a lot of the mundane task of to schedule a calendar for work is now being done seamlessly and very well with AI. So I think more and more of these kind of simple tasks will eventually be taken over by technology.
Since the startups have been, trying to pivot and trying to change the way that they interact with the external players. So, within your own business, how you have been managing to stay relevant to the current ecosystem. So, with these massive changes. So how are you dealing with the startups? And is there anything that the startups should bear in mind, when they want to approach you, for instance, to do business?
One of the key things that we've discovered is that everybody always wished that their programs were more online, whether it's the conference or the accelerator. And I think a lot of people are realizing that, yes, exactly, that the online experience can deliver the content equally, if not better, than having trainers to speak and train one-on-one online. That said, it required all of us to be a little bit more open-minded and try to use the tools and technologies and adapt our way of work.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've been observing a lot of online webinars emerging. And so I think from our accelerator point of view, I don't think much has changed because our work by nature is mostly digital. So, we develop the programs online, we connect with people online before we actually meet them in person. So our work per se has not been affected that much. When it comes to startups, not only within our accelerator, but also I think with startups worldwide, because they are still at the beginning of starting a business because of this whole pandemic. Their businesses are hit the most. But at the same time, I feel like it's an interesting opportunity because startups, by definition, operate in a very, very uncertain environment. And this crisis that we're experiencing now with coronavirus is one of those uncertain, unpredictable circumstances that just emerge. So entrepreneurs can really, use their creativity, their innovation skills to really either pivot or maybe they already had their business online and then it doesn't really affect them at all. As an entrepreneur, you have to be agile. You have to be able to pivot when something like this happens. So at the same time, I also feel like it's a good time for many startups to kind of focus on the things that many entrepreneurs generally postpone, so thinking of your long-term strategy, thinking of your long-term mission or vision. Like, this is a good time when you're just sitting at home to really reflect on all these big questions and kind of get very clear in your head of where you're going.
To the advantages of online businesses, but actually, of course, this is a very painful transformation for a lot of startups, especially with those in the traditional sector. So let's say, what would be your advice, to those startups who have to pivot? We're talking about traditional startups that have to pivot into online businesses. What do they have to bear in mind when they have to go through this painful transformation?
I think, there's always a good saying, never miss a good crisis, right? You have the time, as Catalina said, right, to think about the core of your business. I mean, even this crisis is much more difficult than other crises, like the financial crisis. Hey, in the past, in the financial crisis, you could still survive somehow. Now, for example, if you're an airline, right, or if you are like a hotel industry, or in terms of startups, I would say that I can only speak about the German, or especially the Berlin startup industry. I think most of them are, like, I would say 90% digital, right? And even for us, like, we have a program as well. So it's called APX, together with Porsche. So one of the largest car manufacturer company. And even there, I would say that none of these startups are actually traditional. So I don't think that most of them have like a bigger problem of being digital, but it's more like a funding problem right now, right? So a lot of companies are actually stopping doing business. So it's and also there are some investors who not really, like, putting money on the table.
Keyword hashtag at this point in time is really the pandemic pivot for most businesses that may have had challenging business models that require burning a lot of cash or a lot of experimentation. I think right now we're going back to basics, where we're focusing on businesses that solve a real problem that a lot of us in the ecosystem development community is trying to help is see, is this going to be a long-term change in patterns of consumption and behavior as people stay home and they develop new habits? I think it's still unknown, but definitely everybody is in agreement that the new normal will require long-term social distancing in the next 6 to 24 months. A lot of the entrepreneurs will have to get used to trying to get resources online. And if they've never been active on LinkedIn and finding investors through online pitches and angel lists, this is the best opportunity to leverage all the tools and resources that exist for a very long time, but are often overlooked. And now people are looking for similar tools to find investors, find business opportunities, matchmake with potential business partners and co-founders, get mentoring from the best of the best online. So I think from an adaptation point of view, the supporters of startups will also need to adapt the way they provide value. And one of the biggest challenge right now in my industry is a lot of programs are going online, a lot of conferences are going online all at the same time, and a lot of them are free or very affordable. And will it be able to raise the same amount of funding like offline programs? And I think that's something that we're experimenting, but both entrepreneurs and ecosystem builders need to be able to learn to survive together at this point. And I think the most fundamental question that you need to think right now is, you might have a lot of people and some technology, but maybe the customers no longer come, right? What can you repurpose your marketing database, your core technology to a different adjacent industry that can start making money right away? For a very simple example, we've seen a lot of travel companies whose customers went down to completely zero, and now they're looking and saying, well, there's a lot of people that still want to travel. Can we put a lot of the tours online in virtual reality, keep people engaged? And then maybe through that experience, people can see products that they like and then buy it virtually.
So Catalina, I think we would want to zoom in a bit in Vietnam right now, since of course the investors are tightening their belts, and of course there's also a recent massive trust crisis in the startup ecosystem with the likes of WeWork and Uber and other startups who are also failing to deliver expectations from the investors and stakeholders. So I believe that peculiar to Vietnam, we also have a lot of challenges, especially as startups. So what would be your advice to the startups in Vietnam?
This crisis I guess, will push up the startups that were in the right place at the right time, which is not to say that the startups who depend a little bit on offline things will not succeed. I mean, it is a pause, and it feels like not much is happening because maybe there are not as many investor meetings, or maybe there are not as many customer interactions, and so on and so forth. But that does not mean that you will not succeed. I mean, we live in a world where everything is about speed and about fast growth, but maybe this is a time to actually rethink all that things and really focus on what matters. So I think one advice I would give to startups is to ask yourself, how can you really build engagement maybe online? Maybe even if you don't have any sales or revenue right now, you can still be active online and have a sort of strong digital presence. You can still interact with your customers even though you don't sell anything to them. It's all a matter of how you look at things. You can look at this and be like, oh, my business is going to die in a few months. Or you can be like, okay, stuff is changing, but this is part of a startup life. What kind of tools, what kind of knowledge can I use to really make this work? And everything that a startup does can still happen. Maybe you don't have physical meetings with your investors, but you can still do a lot of networking. And I feel like it's also a good time to do some cross or international networking, because if your business was mainly regional or mainly national, and you focused mainly on regional investors and on national investors, maybe now it's a really good opportunity to reach out to people in further geographies and to see what if your startup, can succeed in another country or in another part of this world.
So maybe the very last question. So yes, in this unprecedented time, how have you been able to maintain your sanity? And what is your favorite workout? Let's say both mental or physical workout does count.
I guess the most important for me was to really try to maintain a routine, because when everything is at home, like your family is at home and your work is at home and your fitness is at home, your hobbies are at home, it's very hard to really find the boundaries of, okay, when do you stop working and when do you start your rest? So I think one of my favorite exercises, I guess, was actual physical exercise, because it's just sitting so much in front of the computer, more than you would do usually, right? Because maybe you commute to work, so in public transport or in your car, or you walk to your work, but now everything is happening in a chair or on your sofa. So really finding some really good home workouts to get that energy, because if your body feels good, your mind feels good. So for me, it was actual physical exercise that helps me, maintain my level of energy and productivity.
Be honest.
I do yoga now.
Please be honest.
Yes.
Really?
Yoga,
Okay.
and maybe some biking or one of those Nintendo Switch, like dance, just dance. There was always routines and habits you wanted to pick up, like exercising and meditating in the morning, which I do now, or reading a book once a week and listening to podcasts and taking online courses, which I do a plenty of. And I have been slowly and surely been able to constantly re-engineer every bit of my life that was putting too much stress, that was not eating well, was not sleeping great, to fit around it. You don't have to travel. You don't have to be in packed spaces. There's very little cost if you're cooking your own food and growing it. And the amount of time you have for family is also, if you're just stressed out and worried, sick, and just in a really tough place, reach out to community as well. This is when your co-working space community, your business network community is really going to shine, because for a lot of people, we're depressed, our business is going down, we have to do major pivots, there's a lot of people we have to let go. And this is when mentors and investors and advisors and people that are going through the same paths need to come together and talk. And we've created this group online called Founder Therapy. Just randomly founders showing up every Friday just to talk and, you know, share their pain points. And so build that, because that's what's going to get you through the long haul.
Yeah, I mean, Catalina and Amarit said already a lot of tips. So, I mean, I'm also working out. It helps me a lot as well. We also have this kind of session, you know, every Friday. There's a lot of ways actually to keep sanity, right? So actually you have to reach out. So you have to ask people whether you want them or not, right? Because otherwise it's not going to happen. I think everything that we say right now only works for like specific kind of people, right? For example, some people have families. That is much more difficult, because if you have kids, you know, you work probably more in the morning, right? And maybe not in the afternoon, because you have to play with them, right? Or some people, you know, are single, then it's fine because they are more flexible, right? And this way, you know, if you work for a company, right, if you are a leader, you have to be empathetic about this, right? So you really have to like also think about your employees, you know, that they have different kind of lifestyle, you know, they have different responsibilities.
I think our time has almost run out. So we have learned a lot from you about, you know, how the situation is in different countries and different industries. And also more importantly, how people, you know, should view this pandemic as an opportunity and should view this pandemic from a different angle, like how they can pivot their business and how they could, you know, like go through this period, since this is an irreversible period. So we have to deal with it all together, and we have to live with it for a very long time. So basically, please just, you know, keep up, hold up, and make the most of your time with your colleagues or your family. So thank you very much for taking your time between your household chores and your work to, you know, to share with us your perspectives. And to our audience, if you have any question, please feel free to drop us an email or, you know, share us an email, a message on VnExpress fan page. Thank you very much for joining us, and we hope to see you soon in our next e-conferences.